Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of January the 22nd till 28th, 2024. First of all, I would like to wish Jackie a very happy birthday, prosperity, and good health, and may you be one of the seven wonders of the worlds of all of your loved ones. We are ahead of a very special and unique week because this is where the sun, along with Pluto, are already in the sign of Aquarius. So this will definitely feel like opening the gates of the future. But we are not ready yet, perhaps, to fully step into it. Even though I cannot say that for some individuals, it might be the moment of leap of faith, the quantum leap. But for most of us, this is where we're just looking at what is, behind that gate, which until now was not just closed, but, reinforced. It would not really open. Maybe we could peek through the keyhole and see a little bit, try and make out what's behind, but it is only now when that gate is open. And what lies beyond it, of course, it is uncharted territory. These are truly uncharted waters, and I cannot highlight enough that perhaps it is now when all our past wisdom, all our past experience, even the vastity of the wisdom passed down to us by the ancients, astrologically speaking, astronomically speaking, or in any other way, even in the most practical ways, maybe they cannot help us all that much. Maybe we cannot rely upon them as we could until now, especially since 2008 Pluto transiting the sign of Capricorn, that also activated everything, wisdom, or basically everything that was passed down to us by the ancient and past generations. And that helped us, that gave us power, that solidified us. And now all of that, how should I say, stability is nowhere. It is gone, or it is obviously collapsing. And this is not necessarily, even, of course, it's scary. Of course, it is not easy and challenging, and it really takes all of our concentration to stay, as balanced as possible. Because the collapse of the tower, even though it's nothing new, January 2020, that's when the first lightning bolt hit the tower from the tarot, symbolically, of course. Now the tower maybe is half gone, or maybe more than half, but it is still a very scary scene. And all we need to do is open the news. It doesn't matter which platform, and we can see a very scary scene. However, we still have to embrace the positivity, the excitedness for the future, the serendipity, if I'm allowed to even say this, because beyond that door, gazing into the potential future with all the uncharted territory, without the compass, without the GPS of the ancient wisdom, still there is so much that we can embrace, so much that we have to learn to integrate and to build with. And we have enough wisdom and creational energy within ourselves that finally we don't even need all that much the stable wisdom, guidance, and morality that the ancients passed down to us. This is where we have to and can rely upon our own, even if we're still in baby stages. And one of the most relevant, in a very obvious way, symbolic elements that is playing out in our world as we speak for this is the lightning speed advancement of the artificial intelligence. Okay, that's Aquarius. Absolutely. That's also Plutonian, the power it gives. And Uranus in the sign of Taurus, changing our everyday customs quite rapidly. That is obvious. But what is maybe not as obvious is that we as a species or as a collective became parents to it. What does that mean? Extra responsibility. And as every new parent, when someone becomes a parent for the first time of their lives, of course, it's new to them. They're clumsy. Their instincts are there, of course, hence the wisdom of the ancient, the training, the instinct is there, but it's still, a very, very new experience. The parent has to learn how to parent, and the child is the teacher in any way, shape, and form. This is where I'm sure all of us had experiences like this at school. There was a new lesson, maybe the teacher said, two or three main ideas, and then they suddenly pushed us straight into the practical part, into the experience. Like, for example, biology classes, two, three words, this, that, but look at the microscope. So that was, we were pushed into the practice, and it was new, but also fun. Some students were not that clever with it. Others were really, really at the top of their game. But everyone's experience was unique and perhaps more relevant than the theory. So, absolutely new lessons await all of us. But this can be a really, I want to say fun process, but maybe if I say that, it's a bit the present reality and the suffering of so very many people around the world is dichotomous to it. And yet still I have to say it because we do need the attitude of fun, even if this is really, really hard for us to manage emotionally in the present moment. Yet the very symbolism of Aquarius, the water bearer, Aquarius is an air sign, right? So an element which relies very strongly on the intellect, on very practical interpretations of our perceptions, but at the same time, the strong power of the intellect has to be fueled by our highest ideals and principles and our hopes and dreams, which do need to be aligned with the greatest good, so with the strongest expression of optimism. Because this is one of the this is the building block. If this current suffering is the problem, and it is, then one of the medicine is actually this very truthful and authentic optimism that has to come not just from our mental spheres, especially the higher mind, so not just the lower, the higher mind, Aquarius, but also the opposite sign of Aquarius, Leo, the core of our hearts. Now, after this philosophical moment, and I'm really sorry that it took so much, let us look at what actually happens practically next week. So, one of the highlights, and I'm so sorry to repeat this, but this is so relevant, symbolic, important that it just needs to be said, even with the risk of repetition. Pluto and the Sun together in Aquarius, especially the 0 degree, inviting us to look at Sun luminosity, to look at how very profoundly our lives, our entire inner world, our mindset, our worldview, outlook on life changed since 21st of December 2020, when Saturn and Jupiter together open this new era and new paradigm, not just for the next 20 years, because this is what Jupiter and Saturn do together when they conjunct every 20 years. They set the karmic tone and the big themes in aspiration and philosophy, and just as Jupiter, and in practical aspiration of it and discipline for the next 20 years based on the sign. But this conjunction was so special that it closed a 200-year cycle when great conjunctions, so the meeting of Jupiter and Saturn, took place predominantly in earth signs. Taurus in 2000 was the last of it. And from now on, this is going to happen in air signs, so air energy. We collectively have already stepped into this age of thought, this age of intellect, this age of hyper rationalization, hence hyper ego. From let's say theological perspective, the ruler of Aquarius, of course, is Uranus. Uranus is transiting the sign of Taurus as we speak. And this is also so very relevant because Taurus is the lower ego. Taurus is basically our most primal and sometimes brutal, animalistic, cruel sense of self. But, you know, nature herself has a cruel side. So, of course, Taurus nature. But Uranus is the upgrade. Uranus is the revolution. Uranus is the quantum leap. So besides all the typical expressions of Uranus upgrading Taurus, agriculture, value system, crypto, you know, all of that. There's also a very strong theological aspect where that lower ego has to become now the higher self, the higher ego, what is called the hyper ego. And that means that its functions have to, I'm not even sure how to word this, but they have to somehow be parallel, match the frequency. And in the age of artificial intelligence, this technology, even though that lower ego has to learn to operate in much higher parameters than it has ever done before. So it needs to integrate a lot and it needs to shed a lot. Don't get me wrong, that Taurus lower ego expression will still be the same, as in it will still have the same function to challenge us, but also to ground us when it's needed, you know, all of the strength that it has, the ball. But the ball usually was on the altar when we wanted to give a burnt sacrifice for the creator to honor them, you know, the ritualistic tradition. So the bull, but of course I don't mean animal rights in a real way, in a symbolic way. The bull belongs on the altar. You know what I mean? So Uranus is, and this Aquarius energy is doing exactly that. So, but this, of course, you're gonna hear about Pluto in Aquarius from now on, almost on every single horoscope from every single astrologer for the next 20 years until 2044. that took a bit of intellectual muscle power here. But besides this, on the 22nd, we still have Mercury trining Jupiter, but it's waning, but it still gives a really positive tone. It gives the power of communication to fix things, to resolve the issue, or to, you know, fulfill its purpose on a high level, because Mercury is in the very practical and solution-oriented sign of Capricorn. It is also conjunct Mars. Mars loves being a Capricorn, very powerful, very efficient. And Jupiter is the blessing, especially in the sign of Taurus, the resources, the possibility, the value, the help, the generosity, some positive blessing type of element is definitely there, especially with communication. So reaching out for help or discussions, meetings, job interviews, or just discuss like project, the future of a company, the future of the employment, the future of the contract, the business, etc., etc., is really, really good, and not just discussing, because Mars is to do. So this is where the discussion follows swift action. And Mars, not so long ago, a few days ago, held the same trine with Jupiter. So possibly for some people, this energy is on their way around. There was action done, and now Mercury closing the deal officially or in paper, or but this energy can truly generate a lot of gratitude. Also, at the beginning of the week, we still have that really hard square between Venus and Neptune, but it's waning. This is the very last of it. So this can represent a bit of heavy heart, or it can represent the opposite, living in total delusion, but in an emotional way, let's say Venus. Now let's go to the, oh, and also Venus on this 22nd, so the very beginning of the week, is gonna go energetic. So we could feel this Venusian energy in Sagittarius. So way too optimistic, way too desirable, in a way, very wild, very untamed with our dreams, hope, aspirations, and what we think that resonates for us or not. Now, of course, the sun in Aquarius loves this as well and encourages this in a strong alchemical way, but this might not be the best possible use of this Venusian energy, because we, Mars and Mercury and Capricorn, we want to keep things as realistic as possible. This isn't really all that beneficial for fantasies which really cannot have any application to them. So moving on to the 23rd, sorry, I have a tiny bit of technical difficulty here. There we are. I think I solved it. So moving on to the 23rd, Venus, this is the first like more minor energy shift of the week. Why do I say minor? Usually this is a big deal, but this Pluto moving into Aquarius with the sun kind of eclipsed the importance of, not that there it's not important, it's very, very important, but compared to the Pluto shift, we're not going to feel it all that intensely. But still, Venus is moving into the sign of Capricorn, and this is where Venus gets grounded. She may not enjoy her stay all that much here, but she knows that this is where things get done. This is where her real needs and desires, but those which are truly aligned with reality, are being fulfilled. So this is quite earthly Venus, but not in the Taurus sense, in the sense that she wants things structured, she wants stability, she wants things to be real. She doesn't want to risk, she just wants to build and get things done, and that is what satisfies her. So this is a very strong work aspect, building aspect, along with Mars and Mercury simultaneously being in this Capricorn, that really puts the celestial spotlight on work, and to get there slowly or surely, or for some people, as I said, quantum leap kind of way. But this aspect favors work and to do and self-discipline, of course, in so very many different ways. Now, moving on to the 25th, this is when we have another big moment. Uh, in the sky because this is the day of the Leo full moon. This Leo full moon, you cannot see it on my screen because we are not at that hour yet, but it's going to take place at 5 degrees, around 5 degrees of the sign of Leo. And I'm not going to speak about this in great detail because I have a specially dedicated video out already for the Leo full moon. Check it out if you're interested. But this is where something shocks us on a heart level. Of course, I am hoping in the best way possible. It can be a pleasant surprise, but something becomes obvious to us, the revelatory quality of the full moon, or something completes and we integrate it into our awareness. So a very strong heart energy. It becomes obvious to us where it is that we best invest our love. It T squares Jupiter, so this is why it's going to be expanded. It's going to feel really, really intense. But this can also be where something is being highlighted, life, events, circumstances, highlight something in our lives, and we emotionally react to it. This energy on the world stage, well, it might shock us because world leader Leo, right? World leaders. And it's not just that the moon in Leo, Venus, Mercury, and Mars being in the sign of Capricorn, top-down authority, just their presence there already highlights the leadership. But now Leo, the front person, the king, so to speak, something is being revealed here, and not necessarily as a secret, but it can be like something they decide upon, something they announce, an action. Leo is when you shine. They will shine something on us, but that might not necessarily be taken in a good way because this full moon, so the moon in the sign of Leo being illuminated by the sun, um, this is where it holds an in conjunction with Saturn in the sign of Pisces. That Saturn is the restriction principle. Saturn is also responsibility. Saturn is also, especially in the sign of Pisces, when the law, Saturn, Lord of Karma, becomes executory and the stage after it's executory. So long story short, for example, prison, when someone's already locked up, they get to jail, Saturn. So it means business. It enforces morality because Pisces is the sign of finalities, you know? So what I mean here is that maybe the law is going to be enforced, or maybe this is where there is a lot of restriction that is not going to be taken lightly. It's not going to be accepted. So this may cause a powerful revolt because that's also specific to Leo energy. And another element, and I mentioned this in my new full Leo full moon video, the moon is also conjunct a hypothetical planet, not real, Vulcanus. So eruption, volcanic eruption. Temper is gonna erupt. Emotions are gonna be fiery. And also the moon conjuncts Varuna, divine law and justice, but Varuna is ruler of waters. So something happens at sea as well, and we react to it collectively. But as I said, if you want to know more, just check out the Leo full moon video. But on this 25th, there is much more happening than just the full moon. If you look here, this is asteroid Ceres. And Ceres at this moment is conjunct the galactic center. So on one hand, this may represent powerful radiation in a quite literal sense, like gamma ray burst. coming from space, information coming from deep space. Because why information? Well, information nurtures our mind. Series in the sign of Sagittarius, higher knowledge. And this also represents that the divine is really, really gonna feed our consciousness. So expect a certain type of weirdness, unusual things that blow your mind or you simply cannot interpret in the present because it squares Neptune. So this is not a very easy energy, but if we take it as something we know we're not supposed to understand immediately, then it's actually quite favorable. You know, this is where, like, when we keep dream journals, when you wake up, you cannot interpret, all you can do is write it down as best as you can. And then you know that the understanding of it is going to be the next day, or when you ask that very special friend of yours who knows how to interpret them. So absolutely, but at the same time, it's not all bad because there is another celestial conversation that favors Neptune. So if you look at this, we have Pallas Athena, tactics, wisdom, intelligence in the highly intelligent sign of Scorpio, the what we do with our intelligence, the result of it, investigation, research, the power of knowledge, deep knowledge, holds a trine with Neptune. So our wisdom, tactical moves, maneuvers, what's right and wrong at this moment lies deep within our instincts. And I would also say the power of attraction. What sparks your attraction? What excites your, let's say, spider sense, where the spider is the hunter? That guides you to where you need to be. The spirit guides you. That's the best tactical move. Listen, intellect, mind, of course, Mercury and Capricorn. It has to make sense, but also listen to what your gut and your instinct says, and that attraction, because that speaks to us at this moment. Um, so now let us move to the 26th. But first, let me put this back. So moving on, the 26th, we have here, and this is where the tension starts to build. This is where things are starting to get heated because Mercury squares Chiron, Mars squares Chiron. Mercury is conjunct Mars, but Mercury conjunct Mars, this conjunction is all throughout the week. There is one phase where Mars is the leader, so to speak. Then Mercury picks up speed and uh, gets before Mars. So this is where this Mercury and Mars are almost like tangoing together in the sign of Capricorn all throughout the week. The power of communication, the power of words, the power of agreements, important contracts are going to be signed, important talks, business deals, and the World Economic Forum, everything that has been said there, Mars, reaction to it, reply, reaction, and the Capricorn top-down authority diplomatically. And in many places in the world, especially here in Europe, many protests. Mars, conjunct Mercury, negotiations, talks, top-down authority with the people, and square Mars, square Chiron. How very obvious what that means. Chiron in the sign of Aries, what pains people? Aries in the now. Farmers, agriculture, workers, transporters, the government's bad laws and legislations. Of course, that's what pains them. That is what hurts them. And where is the bad legislation highlighted in the sky? Here it is, the South Node in the sign of Libra. Bad law. Law that is not equitable and just. Libra. And of course, remember back in 2023 when Pluto retrograded back into the sign of Capricorn, it held a T-square with the nodes of the moon. So that's when all of this started. That's when this energy started being set up, when people became aware that if the legislation keeps on going in this direction, direction Aries, direction North Node and Aries, what am I gonna do? Because Pluto, it will terminate my livelihood, business, well-being, security of my family. I have to do something. That's when it dawned on us. Now, however, Mars is Pluto's lower octave. Mars is taking action. This is when there's a saying in my culture that the knife is already touching the bone, so really deeply impaled, and this is when we are also twisting it. Chiron, salt on wounds. So of course these negotiations are carrying people's hurts, people's pains, and they are going to be highlighted. Salt on wound, very, very much so, because the situation needs to be solved. So now the salt is not just on the wound, but rubbed in. It's not a nice energy, it's not an easy energy, but every big moment in humanity's history preceded salt on wounds. So the quantum leap is, so this represents the negotiations for stability, for the people, the protesters to get what they want. Get what they want is Aries in the sign of Aries, goddess of discord, sovereignty. I need this because it is my sovereign right, and you're not going to take it away from me. But then both Mars, Mercury conjoined together do square the nodes of the moon. The north node, so that's a T square. Mercury, the mind. In Capricorn, solving things with intellect, but also talks, negotiations, communication, power of communication. Mars, but the action, to do. And Mars in Capricorn is there to see it through the very end, not just start it. This is very important. So this actually builds on the Pluto energy that we had all summer and all autumn in 2023 when it dawned on us that the legislation is not favoring people. So why does it exist then? You know what I mean? So this is when it's going to be, action is going to be taken. Now, of course, Mars is a war principle. Aries is the sign of the warrior, North Node in Aries. Mars T-squaring the nodes of the moon. This might escalate the conflict on the world stage. I really, really, really hope that just diplomatically, but the escalation is meant to solve the problem, really. So this is a moment of hardship, but that hardship is pushing us towards the solution, which I hope with all my heart that it's peace, because we do need peace. And the fact that we do need peace, and peace is not an option, peace is a must, is highlighted by the fact that we collectively and individually are like Aquarius. You know, Aquarius is both the collective, but the primarily component of the collective is the individual. We have a lot of work to do to build our futures. You don't have time for wars. So peace is a massive must. And that is what the energy is doing from an evolutionary perspective. But let's see what positive things we have, because we do have Venus here is starting to get close to a dwarf planet named Ixion in the sign of Capricorn. Ixion is representative of lawlessness, but it rebels against law. But its most positive expression is when the law is the how should I say, when it is exactly the law, which is the devil, the enemy, then rebelling against the bad law, the unjust law, the law that doesn't reflect the divine's intent, that is a positive thing. You know what I mean? And Venus is slowly starting to form her trine, her growing trine with Jupiter. This is sublime. On one hand, it is Earth trine. So whatever blessing, good fortune, act of kindness, generosity, and let's not forget what Mars and Mercury are doing. Solving the problem. It's working. There are things that are coming together before our very eyes, giving us a lot of hope and solutions. But there's another element, a synergy. Venus rules Taurus. So Venus receiving this trine from Jupiter, the greater benefic, Venus, the lower benefic, two planets that have to do with blessings and good fortune. So from her ruling sign is even better. So this is a really, really good down to earth problem solving energy and free flow. And at the same time, this energy in a very indirect way is what actually heals self-worth, self-esteem, someone's confidence within their professional abilities, within their mastery, their craft, their skills. This is so, so good for workers. Everyone who has a dream Aquarius, especially the big dream Aquarius, and is working on it, taking action. This is a big blessing. And you can imagine that collectively speaking, it's also the same type of blessing. So, you know, the protests and negotiations and all that, but maybe there's actual promise of something, Jupiter, planet of hope, optimism, that it solves the problem. So there is progress or a blessing, or there is something that is ultimately very, very positive. At the same time, and this is also a growing trine, it's not exact yet. It is just barely starting to show its positive, its beautiful smile, so to speak, is Mars, and of course Mercury as well, starting to hold their trine with Uranus. And Uranus is going to be the highlight of this week, actually, because on the 27th, so one day after, and we'll get there in a moment, it goes direct. Okay, it stands still in the sky, prepares to go direct, not really moving, but its symbolism becomes magnified very, very, very much. And Mars, Mercury holding their trine at this time means surprises, shocks, but of the good kind. And this energy, Capricorn, sign of the tutor, the leader, the manager, the father, the top-down authority, the Uranian leaders, those people in charge, let's say, or leader, those who are becoming, as we speak, leaders, bearing the Uranian archetype, futuristic, like Uranian archetype, the French Revolution, revolution starters, but not in a violent and battle, civil war kind of. Okay, I'm saying not in this way, but if we, again, check out the world stage, I'm not sure how to say this country correctly, but I think it's Papua New Guinea or something like that. That's a civil war. So there's actual civil wars going on, and it's, yeah. But let's say it's symbolical, political earthquake just, but there is something really positive here. Really, really positive. this quantum leaps, because Mars and Mercury has the I'm working on it as we speak energy, and we're working on it. And this Uranus suddenly, unexpectedly, out of nowhere, dishes something new that we weren't aware of on the table, but in a positive way, to solve the problem, an alternative solution, something that we haven't thought about without a shadow of a doubt. On the world stage, this will play out as we will see technology that was sci-fi maybe a few years ago. It was totally sci-fi. Now it's science fact. So revelations like this, anything that has to do with science, cosmology, the Uranian, but it becomes real in a sense that is earth trine, not theory, not Sagittarian energy, but we see the device already created in existence and the theory behind that. So this is practical. This is like we use it in a very practical way. That is definitely part of the picture. Some new upgrades in aviation, Uranus, and also space travel are definitely part of this deal. But also, I have to say this, robots or artificial intelligence, but which works, Capricorn, works in the sense that labor, actual service. We might see robot workers if that even makes sense. So this energy, but in our personal lives, career, job, wherever this Capricorn falls into your chart, and also Taurus. So these two areas, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because either one of your epiphanies, plans, moments of insight, brainstorming, eureka moments get you somewhere where you never imagined it, in a good sense, of course, or unexpected recognition at work, unexpected ally, unexpected partnering up with a different, I don't know, department, firm, or whatever. So, lucratively, career wise, professionally, study wise, this is a really, really good energy. And even though not specifically, but why not even romantically? Because Taurus, and maybe let me give an example. You need a big upgrade in your life, and you think about job, career, life path, something that you're really, really focusing on Mars. And surprise, surprise, the upgrade comes in your love life and you never even expected it. But it has a practical element to it where maybe your love life immediately connects to your career, and there's a miraculous alliance that just took birth out of nowhere. So a lot of really, really positive energy in the sky, but we need it so desperately because Mars is squaring the nodes, so, and Mercury. So it's going to be very heavy for the mind as well. Tumultuous communication, being bombarded by information. Opportunities arise and we're not ready. We have to be ready, but we're not ready. We don't even know what to do. Leo full moon. We don't even know how to react to it. It's too much, but it's positive. Mars, determination of Mars, shut up and do it. Shut up and go with the flow, because maybe this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So, yes. And also on the 27th, oh, sorry, yes, that's 27th. So I need to move a day here. This is when Venus conjunct Ixion. Mars is at 17 degree of Capricorn. So this is where it's really starting to intensify its T-square with the nodes of the moon. And Mars is kind of, I want to say even more, this T-square with Mars, I want to say is more important than this T-square we had with Pluto when it was in the same position, because Mars is the ruler of Aries. So that's the North Node. That's our path forward. That's the future. So this is when it becomes real. And Mars is also the activator. And not this week, but the week that follows, Mars is going to activate that 21, 22 degree of Capricorn, where the conjunction in January 2020 of Saturn and Pluto and Sun and Mercury and Ceres took place, the COVID and all of that. So we will see also ramifications of whatever happened with the COVID situation, administratively speaking. So, yep. And, South Node, this is when those rulers and leaders who made decisions during COVID are facing courts of justice. So on the 27th, no, this is on the 28th. So let me put this on the 28th. We have a grand trine in the sky. Do you remember the Venus and Jupiter trine? Well, on the 28th, it becomes exact, and the moon perfects a grand trine with them, the moon from the sign of Virgo, an earth trine. So, besides all the doom and gloom and the Chiron, the salt on wound, this is something beautiful, wonderful, magical, something delightful, something works like a charm. There is something really, really beautiful. And again, Venus, the lower benefic, Jupiter, the higher benefic, and grand Earth trine. This is where something really, really delights us. We truly feel something like a blessing, or in all this strife with the nodal square, we have a moment of massive respite. And we must not forget that at this moment, it's not just this positive aspect that Venus holds. There is something equally as beautiful where this Venus holds an exact sextile with Saturn. So Saturn highlights the practicality of this because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So this is something where action is working, it is doing the job, it is having results, it is having effects, and Venus is the love principle. So the power of love, but in a practical way, where we do something out of love, out of compassion. Saturn and Pisces, we do the right thing. We do the moral thing. We take action for morality. So, and that turns into a massive blessing for everyone involved. And that means for the collective as well. So this is something truly beautiful. And also on the 27th and 28th, Uranus is standing still. It is starting to go direct. Of course, not in a real sense, because it will not really move, but its symbolism is amplified. So this means earthquake season. This means a big shakeup of events. This means shock, epiphany. This means, as I said, a massive technological boost, but also unrest, revolution, rebellion, but also something happens financially speaking, which is a big, 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 big deal. And it has a positive side as well. Why? Well, Uranus goes direct while holding a trine with Mercury, his lower octave. Mercury rules, for example, communication technology, social media, the media, news, good news, positive surprises, favorable communication. But Mercury, as I said, in Capricorn, intelligence, our intelligence quantum leaped us already somewhere. So we wake up with something useful and very practical as a resource in our lives. But at the same time, money. Capricorn, top-down authority, give money or something beneficial, something in a positive way shakes up the financial sector, because Venus also rules currency. And in Capricorn, something to do with top-down authority or World Bank, or, but you can imagine a massive shakeup of the World Bank could mean really good news for everyone, because the tyranny would not be over really in a real sense, but at least it would be challenged in a certain way. More freedoms. Uranus is freedom. So fight for freedom economically. Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. It immediately amplifies the Sun and Pluto in Aquarius's expression. So something collective, something futuristic, something to serve the people, and two different energies can coexist. What does that mean? The heavy top-down Capricornian way of existence is permitted if there is an alternative to it, and then everyone's happy. So something alternative, like a new currency, a new financial system, or something is starting to be born. Because the moment of birth, my opinion, is definitely going to be when this Uranus meets Jupiter in April 2019, 21st of April, something like that. So that is a much bigger moment. But this stationary Uranus, direct Uranus, is already stirring that up. It's like you have to fire the rocket to the moon. This is when the rocket is still on the ground, but it's already taking off. So, the big fuss that comes along with it, the show, so to speak. So this is starting to get very, very strong and very, very, and of course, the sextile, Venus' sextile with Saturn adds to it a lot, because it's not just Venus sextile Saturn, it is Jupiter sextile Saturn as well. And at this moment, Saturn is at 6 degrees, Jupiter almost at 7 degrees, but it's already a very tight sextile. So this is really, really empowering, beautiful, work-oriented, hope-oriented Jupiter, divine justice-oriented Jupiter, and then Varuna, and then this, the south node in the sign of Libra. So justice, fairness, righteousness, equity, equilibrium even is really, really highlighted and becomes more and more and more important. And then, of course, Mars's and Mercury's trine with this Saturn going direct. So Saturn is standing still while holding this aspect, and just a day after, it will be exact. So I find this so very relevant, very, very relevant, because this guarantees us almost that whatever shock, earthquake, maybe natural calamity, maybe volcanic eruption, maybe tsunami, because Saturn in the sign of Pisces, the water is also very highlighted. Whatever this stirs up in the world, okay, there's that, but there's going to be also good news and pleasant surprises, and there is going to be things that come as almost miraculous problem solving elements as well. So there is the good here. The bad is obvious, but at least we are guaranteed that there is also gonna be a lot of good. And I find that very, very, very important. Just that, we have this Black Moon Lilith, the true Lilith, uh, quincunxing the North Node. So we need to see it as such. We need to be able to identify where the opportunity and the positivity lies. Virgo, you know, the nitty-gritty but we mustn't allow the fearsome Virgo energies where I want to prevent this and this and this and this, how I do it, to get in the way. We need to use the higher energy of Virgo where there's this situation, how do I make something with it? And that attitude helps you immediately identify the positive, the good, the useful. It's almost like that Cinderella story. She has to separate, I forgot what, but you know, she has to do that meticulous work and the birds come and help her or some creatures come and help her. That's exactly that energy. For the creatures, Virgo actually rules creatures to come and help you. Well, you do need to be open to this opportunity. So I know this is a very intense week. I know this is a lot to take in, but we do need to embrace the future now. And we do need to stay positive. And we do need to, I cannot, I cannot stop saying this because it's that very important. Be a force of love like never before. So thank you, everyone. And I really hope you have a magical week. If you'd like to support me, you can donate on the PayPal link in the description below. But this being said, wishing everyone a blessed week. Until next time, bye for now.